Hello, yes. So Starlight is here, and I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. And hello, hi. And what a beautiful day. Now it's just been warming up again out in this area where I am. So anyway, today is, the topic is, do they really love you? Do they really love you? You know, that's a really good question out there is, do they really love you? And this is not just about relationships, but anyone, any kind of relationship, your family, friends, or loved ones, you know, like a husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, or even twin flames. Do they really love you? So, before I start this video I really appreciate all of you and anyone that would love to send some love to Starlight. You can on my Cash App, and so and I will have the information here. Plus, here we go. Alrighty. So like I said, today is about, do they really love you? And it's so important to, you know, how about we'll start with family. Do they really love you? You know, it's so important. We can get deceived easily in this 3D matrix reality, or if you're like Starlight in the 5D, where that's where the love frequency is. So does your family really love you, you know? And how can you tell if they really love you? Is how often do they reach out to you? How often do they, you know, do they have a phone? Do they have a way to get in contact with you? That really will help. You know, not everybody has computers or phones or one or the other. So do they have a way of reaching out to you, you know, making sure, you know, checking up on you, seeing if you're doing good? You know, that is a good sign that people love you. And when they reach out to you, it's not because they just want something, right? It's not because they're looking for something to take from you. It's that they really care about you and they want to check up on you and see how you're doing. How about the holidays? You know, when the holidays come, you know, whether you might have celebrated the holidays together before. And do you check up on do they check up on you on the holidays? Do they reach out and say, hello, you know, how are you doing? Even though Starlight's not really into the Christmas, you know, because the way, you know, it's really crazy out there how they celebrate Christmas. But, you know, like Thanksgiving, do they reach out and say, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas? Now, Valentine's, of course, you know, that's... You know, it could be Valentine's for anyone. Do they even reach out when it's your birthday? You know, or do they reach out to you, you know, when, because it's been a while. So reaching out to people and, you know, keeping in contact with those people, that's a good indicator that they love you, but that's not always the case, though. Some people, they reach out to people because they want something from you, and it's just, you know, like an act, you know, it's a acting thing that they're doing. So now what is coming to my mind as far as do they really love you is, for me, communication is really important, like I said, with reaching out, so that they communicate with you, they talk with you, they reach out, they actually pick up a phone and reach out and touch someone, you know. I gotta be funny with that, but they actually communicate with you, and they don't just talk about their life, but they ask you questions about your own, you know, how you're doing, you know, like, you know, they ask questions, and some people do ask questions, but it's just to judge you, you know, it's just to, you know, criticize you later, and, you know, to kind of have like this thing of seeing if you're doing better or worse. So it's because they really care about you, and they want to check up and, you know, say, hey, did you get that job? You know, I've been thinking about you. Hey, last time, you know, you weren't feeling good. Are you feeling good now? You know, how's everything doing? Do you have enough? What's going on with your life? So communication, and communication is a hard thing when it comes to any kind of relationship. And that is very important. Communication is the key to any relationship. So communication is that it shouldn't be just one-sided, where only one person is communicating and the other one is not, by reaching out and communicating with that person. So, do you have people that, if there's a problem, maybe in your relationship, whether it's, family or friends or a loved one, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or even like twin flame relationships, do they actually, let you know what's on their mind? Or, there's people, what they do, instead of, communicating with you, it gets kind of funky sometimes with people, they do some funky stuff, instead of communicating with you, they might not talk with you. And that was Starlight long time ago, is, I didn't want confrontation, so instead of bringing anything up, and that was lessons in my past. So have I learned my lesson? Yes. It's not always easy communicating with people, especially when there's a love connection, whether it's family members. Communication is key, and it's so important that, that they take the time. And speaking of time, time is very important. How much time do they spend with you, How much time, these people, they say they love you, but how much time, do they reach out to you, depending on the relationship. I don't expect people to reach out to their mom every day. Or do you? Do you reach out to your mom every day? Well, if I did, my mother wouldn't call me back. It's too funny. But, I don't reach out to my family every day. I would have really run out of stuff to say if I just talked to them yesterday. But some people do, because their parents might not be in good health. But how about your friends? Maybe you talk to your friends every day. That's great, And how about your loved ones, like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband and wife, or twin flames relationships, or even soulmates, is you, spend time with them every day, or, talk to them, keep up with things. So that is an awesome thing. Do you go out and do things together? It should not be just only being, maybe online, or, on a phone or a computer. The people that you want to spend time with, and by going out and doing things out in public with each other, because after a while, it's very challenging to have a relationship when you actually don't even go out and do anything together. How is that going to work? So spending time, like getting out and going to a park, going out hiking somewhere, going to their house, going to, having them come to your house. So spending time is so important in relationships. And let's see, is that there's people that, how they prove, well, there's people out there in the world, they think it's, I would have to say more of the women than the men on this part, but it can go both ways, is there's people that, and it happens sometimes with past relationships, they could have been in a relationship where they got spoiled rotten, whether you're a guy or a girl, you could have been in a past relationship where they're always buying you stuff and stuff and stuff, and they're always giving you stuff and stuff and stuff. Well, is that such a great thing? Is that such a great thing? I do know people where there was a man, and he was spoiling his wife, bought her stuff all the time, whether she deserved it or not, and like I told my son before he got with his wife, or even before he courted, is, don't spoil them rotten, you don't have to buy it, because then they're going to get used to it, and they're going to always think that, they always got it. You always got to go out and buy another thing and another thing and another thing, and then after a while, they're not really going to be appreciative of what you already gave them. And, so it can really ruin a relationship. So, and that happens a lot of time with couples, is that they get into a relationship where they got spoiled rotten, and, and then that relationship did not work. So then they get into another relationship, and say if the guy that she goes with doesn't know anything about giving, the only time he gives is on the holidays or birthdays, because that's all he knows, that's what he's done, and so it might cause her to think, well, he doesn't love me because, he's not buying me enough. My other, my ex, even though we broke up, is that, he went and took me to the mall and we got clothes all the time. I got to go out, and order this and order that, and so given, it's great to, give and receive from loved ones, whether it's a family member, but, does that really prove that they love you? Is because they, even if a guy gave his wife a dozen of roses, does that mean he loves her? Does that mean he loves her? Does he love her because he gave her the roses? It can be an act of love, but doesn't necessarily mean that, because guys give women flowers or roses for all different reasons. Sometimes they screwed up, and then they go out, and like they say, I'm sorry, because they gave up. And sometimes they could do that, and then later on they went and did the same thing all over again. So you got to really ask yourself, what's more important, receiving gifts from somebody to show that they love you and appreciate you? Or is it other things? Is there other things that really speaks to people even more? Because, when you give somebody something, how long does that, thing last? Like after a while it will get old, or dirty like clothing. And then it goes, oh, now you need another one, need something else, or jewelry or something like that. Oops, lost those, So is it really what a person receives or gives? Does that really prove that they love you? Because there's some people, they've been programmed to, know that, hey, women love to have things bought for them, and not just women, but men, and they might get that mixed up thinking, by me, receiving something from this person, that's going to prove that they love me. But that's not always right. Just because somebody gives you something, jeepers, who betrayed Jesus with a kiss? He gave Jesus something, a kiss on the cheek, and he was really setting Jesus up, And I can't remember what disciple that was, but, so just because somebody gives you something, a gift, sometimes people give you gifts because they want more, they want more from you, and it's like a setup. So, and what other things? How about that they're working on themselves? Isn't that great? To have somebody that you see that, hey, look at that, they love me so much that, they're really working hard on themselves, they're doing the best that they can. Doesn't that actually mean anything to any of you? Is that when you see somebody that they're striving to do the right thing, they're striving every day to work their hardest, to be balanced and work on themselves. They're not going out to the bar. They're not going out flirting with other men. They're not going out to the bar scene. They're not drinking alcohol. They're working on their diet. They're working on getting out in nature. Does that mean anything? Yes, of course. That these are things that matter. These are things that matter. It's not about, here, I bought you, It's great to receive. Starly doesn't know what it's like to receive a dozen of roses, but it's great to feel, the love from somebody, especially if they really love you, by receiving those roses. But wouldn't it be better that somebody spent time working on themselves, working on their flaws, where you say, because that's going to strengthen the relationship more, is by, taking good care of yourself and, building that relationship up, whether it's a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or your family. by being there for each other, and being supportive, loving and supportive. Not that we always have to agree to everything that somebody's doing, but we're actually there loving, supporting them. And we can do that in so many different forms, to show love to someone. I go out, like when I'm out in public, I love everyone. And how do I prove my love to strangers? I help out elderly people. If I see that they're struggling, I always stay a distance before I get close to them because the way things are in this world. But, I care about these people, and I want to make sure they're safe, and I want to, help them out when they're struggling. So I will go up to strangers and, I'll stand at a distance and like, hey, could I, take the cart for you, because they're packing up their car and they're struggling. They might have one of those electric chairs, Certainly, I'll tell you what, I might not know how to drive one of those things, but I'm willing to take that risk and, drive that electric chair back into the Walmart store, help them out in any way. And that is what relationships should be about, is to be there, not talking bad about them, not spreading a bunch of rumors and gossip about them, but you're there loving and supporting those people, and it's, keeping, that working on that, strengthening up the relationship is what is important. And how, not that these people are going to be perfect, absolutely not, but they're doing their best, like with couples in the house, they go to work, they come home, they're always there working on themselves, they're getting the house all ready and prepared, making the dinners, There's people, they get sidetracked, or, there's things that happen to people and they're not even aware of it, where they start fading away, They stop working on the relationship. They go out, in places where they don't belong, where they shouldn't be, and it can stir up a lot of problems in relationships, So if you have someone out there that they're not going to the bar scene, they're not, having addictions like football and gambling addictions and, letting alcohol or drugs get in their way, those are the people that they're showing love, but not quite in the way that most people are used to. A lot of people think it's about giving you something. I got to give you something to prove my love to you, but you don't have to give somebody anything except for your time and your attention, and to show them that you're there working on yourself, and that not that you're perfect, but that you're doing everything in your power to build and to keep the relationship going by being there and supporting that person, and being there every day for them. So it's hard to find people like these days, because there's a lot of things out in the world that are pulling people away, spending time with the wrong kind of people. And then, there's people like couples or even family, they could spend time with the wrong kind of people, and before you know it, people are talking bad about, people, behind their backs, and then they get pulled away, and they start believing the lies, and they only see the bad in the people. They don't even see any of the good. So we got to be careful of the kind of company we keep, because if we're spending time with the wrong kind of people, that could really ruin the relationship, because they can actually put a wedge between the relationship, and by pointing all the negatives out, where you got to have a strong person that's like, they're always working on protecting their energy at all costs. They're like, no, you know what? I want to spend time with myself instead of, being around people that are going to trip me up. Those are important, those are the kind of ways that you can tell that a person loves you, is because they're protecting their energy. They're, working on becoming their greatest version of themselves. And what more can you ask? So, for in a relationship is, they're doing everything that they can possibly do. Those are the ways that you can find out if somebody really truly loves you, is that they're really focused on growing and making changes and sacrifices, because that's what relationships are about, is, you know, sacrifice, you know, giving up things that, you know, don't serve them anymore, and really focused on growing and working on themselves. So those are ways. Of course, there's going to be other things that I didn't list on this video, but I hope you really get a lot of help from this message here. It's not always about what somebody can give you, like a physical item or even money. It's about all this other stuff that means more, you know, because people can give for the wrong motives and the wrong reasons, but, you know, it's supposed to be given of the heart, and it's the time and energy that they put out there, you know, like to working on themselves and protecting their energy is so important as far as relationship goes. Being there, communicating, even through the tough times, is that they're there communicating with you, bringing things up when, you know, there's times in relationships it's difficult to bring things up, but because they love you, they will bring things up. Whether they're right or wrong, they will bring them up. And that's how, you know, it takes two people to communicate, not just one. And so it takes two to make it work, not just one. It takes two. So you both have to communicate, you know, and you both, you know, no matter who it is, if you have something that you need to discuss with someone, the reason why you bring it up is because you love them, and it's worse for you to just not communicate and let it build up to be a mountain, you know. So it's so important to communicate with your loved ones. I love you so much, and I really hope you get a lot of help from this video. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, plus give me a thumbs up, and you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. Plus, you could share my videos with your family or friends, and don't forget the notification bell, and check out my playlist. And you can also find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. Thank you for watching. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace.